Even if you're not a seasoned gardener, you can indeed grow these lovely orchids. Yes, orchids, I said it. Our garden expert, Derek Thomas with Thomas Landscapes, joins us now. So what's the deal? Why are people afraid of the orchid? Because on our staff, okay, Sarah Simmons, she already says that she's an orchid killer. So
Right.
What's the deal? Are these hard to grow? And be honest, Derek.
Orchids are some of the simplest plants to grow.
So what's
They
the
really,
problem?
really are. I think that people mistreat orchids.
Okay.
Orchids are air plants. They do not have roots for anything else than gathering nutrients through the air and through rain and things like that.
Okay.
And we tend to plant them in the wrong medium and things like that.
Okay.
Now, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different types of orchids. Some of these, like this one here, happens to be an intergeneric hybrid, which has been created by crossing two different orchids from different families. They're beautiful, but they tend to be a little bit more difficult for a beginner. But I wanted to bring that onto set so that people can see what you can aspire to get up to. What we want to talk about today is the care and maintenance of basically what's called the moth orchid or the Phalaenopsis orchid. It's one of the simplest orchids that you can grow. It reblooms reliably. What you want to make sure when you have orchids is that you've got good air circulation, you've got good light, you have got good humidity. I use a mister.
Okay.
With these phals.
The right pot.
The right pot.
Okay.
The right potting mix. Okay, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But with these phals, the greatest thing about it is when your plant gets to this stage where the blooms are done, what you can actually do is cut the orchid back to the first principal bract. Usually there's a little bit of a sheath there. Cut that back, and within a couple of months, the orchid will start to send out a new bloom on the same stem. And if you look at this guy here, you can see where the cuts have been made, and you can see that it has sent up new flowers for you.
Derek, I noticed also that you have this sort of faceted to a, something artificial in there. Why is that?
That just helps to prevent, this one doesn't have one yet because the flower has not opened up. That just helps to prevent it from swaying and ultimately breaking off.
Should we do that as well at home?
Usually when you buy it, if you buy it from a reputable supplier, it comes with one in place.
Okay.
Correct.
Excellent.
Now, one of the things, remember I said orchids are air plants. One of the things that you want to make sure is that you have really healthy roots. Roots that are nice and big and fleshy, not dried up like this. And then we're going to do a potting medium that is mostly a bark. I use a little bit of charcoal added in there because that helps to sweeten up the soil, and any of the fertilizer that you put on, it's not going to cause any problems, any buildup. When you fertilize your orchids, you want to fertilize them once a week with a orchid food.
Okay.
And the other thing that I like to do is put it on what I call a mini humidity tray. This you just add some water into. And what's going to happen is the orchid, and the orchid is going to be it's going to be almost enveloped in a little bubble of humidity.
Okay.
That's what they love. Most of the times, the reason that people fail with orchids is because our homes tend to be a bit dry.
Yes.
And if you get an orchid plant like this, that's a wonderful, wonderful, and I want to say thanks to Johnson's. They did this arrangement for us.
Yeah.
If you get a orchid plant like this, the best thing to do is actually separate them out, because orchids, it's a little bit too tight. There's going to be a little bit of too much moisture down there. It's beautiful for a temporary arrangement, but separate it out.
Thank you, Derek. All right. Fair orchids no more, people.
And you can have success.
And you can have success. I think that I'm saying goodbye, and we'll be back after the break. We're going to Tony. That's what I'm doing now. Tony, good morning.
All right.
Hey, Tony.
Hi, Derek. Adventure Theater. It's the longest-running children's theater in the Washington area. Annie Yu has been spending the morning with the cast of their current musical.
The Fox 5 weather app. Look 10 days ahead or hour by hour. View today's video forecast and radar that can pinpoint your neighborhood free at your App Store or Android Market.